Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Trail Mix, where the nuts might be a little stale, but the company is always fresh.
All right, I want to try something a little different here. There's been a lot of legal fog in the news lately. Sealed Epstein files, immunity deals, who's testifying, who isn't. It's hard to know what's spin and what's real. So I asked an AI, artificial intelligence, trained on U.S. law, to help answer one big question at a time. This segment's called Ask AI, and today's answers come from our newest contributor, Marcus Vale, a graduate with honors from Bitwise College of Law, trained on ones and zeros and never missed a filing deadline. Let's start with this. Did Maxwell give up her Fifth Amendment rights when she answered questions from DOJ lawyers this week?
Not automatically. The Fifth Amendment protects against self-incrimination, and that right can still be invoked in court or before a grand jury, even if the person previously answered questions voluntarily. But there's a catch. Voluntarily offering detailed answers may limit how you invoke the Fifth on those same topics later. Prosecutors might argue you've waived the right in part, especially if your answers were specific or incriminating. In short, the Fifth isn't gone, but the safe zone just got smaller.
Okay, but let's go further. If Maxwell were to receive a presidential pardon, would she still be able to plead the Fifth to avoid testifying?
In most cases, no, they can't. The Fifth Amendment protects against self-incrimination, but if a presidential pardon wipes out their criminal liability, there's technically no longer a risk of prosecution, and without that risk, the Fifth no longer applies. That means, yes, they can be forced to testify. This was confirmed by the Supreme Court in Burton v. United States 1906 and reinforced in cases like United States v. Mitchell. Once you're pardoned, the legal danger is gone and the government can compel your testimony. But if the person could still face state charges, foreign prosecution, or new unrelated federal crimes, they might still claim the Fifth for those.
That was Marcus Vale, our cool, composed lawyer. He could make cross-examining a toaster sound like the Supreme Court, but now we're going to go to the other side of the bar. Clancy Mudge, disbarred, but restored by popular demand, practicing from a dumpster behind Popeyes. Clancy, do you agree with Mr. Vale?
Agree. Heck no.
Why not?
You talk to the feds and they write it down? Yeah. Good luck pleading the Fifth later. But me, I say plead the Fifth before, during, and after every conversation. Your Uber driver asks what you do for a living? Plead the Fifth. Your grandma wants to know why you smell like gasoline? Plead the Fifth. If Maxwell gets a pardon, can she still stay quiet? No. But also, yeah, I've been pardoned 5 times by mistake. Once by a guy who thought I was his nephew, and didn't stop me from yelling lawyer. The Domino's guy asked for a tip? Yeah. Legally, she'd have to talk. But morally, I say, if you're rich enough to get pardoned, you're rich enough to forget what happened.
Some of that made sense. Now, our House Counsel Carolyn, who's been talking to us this week about the Epstein case, well, she's on the road in the Deep South to an undisclosed location, so we had to text with her, and I had her vet some of these things you've heard, and she points out a couple interesting things. One is that I guess they had some kind of agreement with Maxwell to immunize her, so it's possible that she talked because she got an agreement from the DOJ not to take any action against her, or maybe even to give her a deal to use the Fifth in a future proceeding. Because Carolyn points out, Carolyn knows her lawyer. You know, it's a Florida case. Carolyn practiced in Florida, among lots of other places, but Marcus is very savvy. She says he would not let her talk without some kind of agreement. Carolyn also points out Maxwell will be an awful witness. She denied any participation in the Epstein activities in earlier civil trial, which makes her impeachable. So making some kind of deal for her to talk in some future proceeding, it's doubtful anybody's going to believe her. There's a benefit in all this to lie for Maxwell, to make up something that's to her benefit, maybe to get a lesser sentence. Something like, oh, Trump wasn't involved in anything at all. And that's maybe where all this is going. And we've all been trying to speculate. Why is the DOJ talking to Maxwell all of a sudden? Why are the House Republicans making noises about bringing her in to testify? And why did Trump today talk about pardon? Didn't say he'd give her one, but raised the prospect, said he might think about it. So that's where we're headed, is to try and use Maxwell to get Trump off the hook in exchange for something that could be a political bomb for him with his own base if he gives her some kind of deal to exonerate him. I don't see that ending so well for our man Trump. Let's bring in Lady MawMaw for a look back. Lady, we've been focused today on the Fifth Amendment involving some current news, but let's step back and where did we get the Fifth Amendment in the first place?
Absolutely. Let's take a little journey back in time. The Fifth Amendment's origins go all the way back to English common law traditions. It was designed to protect individuals from being forced to incriminate themselves, a principle that really took shape in the 17th century when people were pushing back against the Crown's attempts to force confessions. By the time the Founding Fathers were drafting the Bill of Rights, they wanted to make sure that this protection was firmly in place in the new American legal system. So it made its way into the Fifth Amendment, giving us that right to remain silent and protect ourselves legally.
Well, if it was such a great idea, I've always wondered, why make it an amendment? Why wasn't this protection, this right, in the original Constitution?
That's such a great question. When the Constitution was first drafted, the focus was more on setting up the structure of the federal government and defining the powers of the different branches. It wasn't until the states and a lot of citizens started pushing back, saying, hey, we need a clear list of individual rights and protections, the Bill of Rights came into play. And the Fifth Amendment, along with the other amendments in the Bill of Rights, was added to ensure that these fundamental personal freedoms and protections were explicitly guaranteed. So it was really about responding to the demand for stronger protections of individual rights after the main framework was already set.
Finally, Lady MawMaw, we've got a new audition, a gun enthusiast, I believe.
Yes, that's right. We've got Jodie joining the mix, and she's definitely bringing a unique perspective.
Hi, y'all. I'm Jodie Hawthorne, homeschool mama, Second Amendment enthusiast, and proud owner of more cast iron than common sense. I believe in God, biskies, and layered defense. There's a Glock in my cookie jar and powdered cheddar in my bug-out biscuits. If the grid goes down, we still brunch. That's called patriotism. So, if Trail Mix wants a little tactical homemaking with your political hot takes, give me a call or don't. I already know how to find you. God bless.
Okay, I'm Lady MawMaw, Craig's built-in emergency brake. If this wasn't enough for you, sign up for the newsletter. It's free, it's thoughtful, and it occasionally makes sense.